Donald Trump built his political leverage on one simple assumption, that Canada depends on the United States. On American trade. On American supply chains. On American defense systems. For years, that dependency gave Washington power. It allowed tariffs, threats, and trade wars to become tools of pressure. But this week, that entire foundation began to crack. What happened was not symbolic. It was not rhetorical. It was not emotional. It was strategic. Mark Carney fired the first signal. Melanie Joly made it undeniable. Canada, she said, must stop being over-reliant on the United States. That single sentence changes everything. This is not a policy tweak. This is not a diplomatic adjustment. This is a declaration of sovereignty. For decades, Canada structured its economy and security around a belief in stability, that the United States would always remain predictable, reliable, and cooperative. That assumption is now officially dead. The world is chaotic. The world is dangerous. And in that world, dependency becomes vulnerability. And vulnerability becomes leverage. That is the leverage Trump has used repeatedly: tariffs on steel, aluminum, autos, and trade. Threats of retaliation. Economic pressure. Political intimidation. Now Canada is dismantling the very system that allowed that pressure to work. The scale alone is staggering. $500 billion in defense investment by 2035. $500 billion. This is not spending. This is restructuring. Canada is transforming its defense economy from the ground up. The goal is simple: move defense contracts going to Canadian firms from 42% to 70%. That means Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, Canadian aerospace, Canadian intellectual property, and over 125,000 Canadian jobs. This is not anti-American. This is pro-sovereignty. Because when a country builds at home, it reduces its exposure abroad. And when dependency fades, leverage disappears. This is the moment Canada stops outsourcing its security and starts reclaiming control. But the shift goes deeper than defense. This is about a new doctrine, one built around resilience instead of stability. Canada no longer structures its future around the predictability of Washington. It structures it around self-reliance, diversification, and strategic insulation. Partnerships are expanding beyond the United States toward Europe, Asia, and the Indo-Pacific. Supply chains are being decentralized. Economic exposure is being reduced. Every single move points toward the same outcome: shrinking American leverage. Trump thrives on pressure. On unpredictability. On forcing concessions. But pressure only works when the other side depends on you. Canada is removing that dependency. And when that dependency disappears, the power balance changes forever. This is why this moment is bigger than Donald Trump. It is bigger than tariffs. Bigger than trade wars. Bigger than any single presidency. What is unfolding is the birth of a new strategic doctrine. Canada is no longer betting its future on the stability of the American political system. It is designing its future around resilience, the ability to withstand chaos, pressure, and geopolitical shocks without bending. That is a fundamental shift. Because once a nation stops depending on any single partner for its defense, supply chains, and economic security, no outside power can easily manipulate it again. That is what insulation looks like. Quiet. Calculated. Permanent. This does not end the Canada-U.S. partnership. But it transforms it. The relationship moves from dependency to balance. From vulnerability to autonomy. From pressure to partnership. And that changes everything. Trump may see this as defiance. It is not. It is survival strategy. It is the recognition that in a world of rising instability, sovereignty must be built, not assumed. Canada is building it, contract by contract, factory by factory, alliance by alliance. Trade diversification was the first warning shot. Defense restructuring is the second. And once economic leverage disappears, political leverage collapses with it. This is how power shifts, not through confrontation, but through structural change. The era of one-sided dependence is ending. And a more sovereign, resilient Canada is rising.